As advertised, special guests on the program this week, everybody. We're excited for this one. Six-time Letterman, if I'm not mistaken, at Florida State University, Super Bowl 37 champion, Brad Johnson. As the kids know him now, Big Bad Brad 14 on the internet. Brad, how's life, man?
I'm doing great, doing great. Appreciate you having me on your show. Tell some Florida State stories and Super Bowl stories and all the above. But life's good, though.
Absolutely. Before we get to that, though, this Big Bad Brad 14 incarnation of your life, this third phase, I guess, chapter, the trick shots. Everybody's got to go check this stuff out on the TikTok. But the one that I saw that blew me away was you behind the backboard, two basketballs, one in each hand, and you threw both of them over the backboard pretty much at the same time, and they both went in. What is your most impressive trick shot to date so far, would you say, Brad?
Golly, there's well, when people they ask me about that stuff, I tell them three things. One time it's first time, first take. That's happened.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
then it's a lifetime of consistent practice, and then it takes what it takes. So some of those things have happened fast. Some of those things, one of them took me 15 and a half hours. It took 7 days of work. And but the one you talk about basketball. So I've gotten into the basketball thing of it's just me, a tripod camera, and basketballs or football out there. So so it's just us. I got to entertain the camera, but you also got to figure out how can you get all those shots involved in one little video. And so that was a pretty cool one. It was two basketballs into the hole that bounce it off the ground, two go in, then two over the backboard that go in. So it's pretty wild. And right now I'm working on one that's a sequence. I try to do them in sequence, multiple shots in a row. And I got one right now that's about 5. It's a spin off the finger. It's two basketballs at the same time. Go underneath. It's two basketballs. It's 2 free throws. And I finish with a kick and a foul shot at the same time. It's wild. So it's a lot of fun. If people haven't seen them, it's true jubilation when they work.
Man, it sounds like you're enjoying retirement.
It's good. Yeah. I have fun doing them, and hopefully people they get entertained by doing it too. They get a few laughs.
Brad, my name's Corey, by the way. We've never met, but I grew up people that listen to this and watch this know I grew up a huge Florida State fan. And when you were at Florida State, that was kind of my sweet spot as a sports fan. I was like 14, 15 years old, which probably makes you feel pretty old looking at this guy talking about being 14 when you were in college. But I don't think people realize what a good basketball player you were. I mean, obviously you're known for what you did on the football field. You won a Super Bowl. You played in the league for 10, 12 years, 15 years, whatever it was. But, man, you started an NCAA tournament basketball game at Florida State against Iowa. And I just looked it up before we started. You hit all your three-pointers in that game. You had 11 or 12 points. And if McLeod doesn't foul out with a horrible charge call, you'll probably win that game. So I guess I just wanted to go back to how you did both, how you were able to do both and do such at a high level, because it was just like, again, we talk about Charlie, we talk about Jameis, we talk about these other two-sport guys. Well, man, you started at football and basketball at Florida State, and they were good at both when you were there.
Yeah. I was very fortunate, very blessed with my career and stuff. And coming out of high school, basketball was my favorite sport. I was a 3A player coming out of the state of North Carolina. Couldn't decide where I wanted to go. On my recruiting visit to Georgia Tech with Bobby Crimmins as the head coach, I went to all his camps as a kid. And I'm sitting there, and he said, "Brad, you got a scholarship to come to Georgia Tech, but what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, Coach Crimmins, I don't know. That's why I'm here." He says, "Which one do you think you're better at?" He says, "I think I'm better." I said, "I think I'm better at football. In the long run, I'm better at basketball now." He said, "Brad, do what's best for you in your career." And at that time, he had a guy named Dennis Scott. Mm-hmm. He said, "Brad, you can only play 5. And he's going to be All-American." So Dennis Scott changed my life because I chose to go to play for Bobby Bowden at Florida State. And my first year at Florida State, I was being redshirted on the football team. I went to Coach Pat Kennedy. And so I actually just kind of walked onto the team, played 2 years there, started for, I think, 13 games or so, went to the NCAAs twice. But at some point, I wasn't dunking on anybody. I wasn't defending anybody. And I was more just a shooter. But we had some great teams there. And just fortunate that I was able to play 2 years of basketball there. I got Charlie Ward and I. We actually played on a summer league basketball team at Dade Street with a few other guys. It was probably the most fun I ever had playing basketball. Was actually with Charlie and Dade Street. But it was pretty cool to say I played both sports. And then obviously there's been a few other guys that have done that too.
when we look at your career, and I know it's a different era, it's 2 eras ago, really, but like you didn't get to start until your redshirt junior year. I don't know that there's a lot of quarterbacks in this day and age, just because you didn't have the portal at your disposal, and you're living that life now as a dad of 2 really good college athletes. But do you think if you grew up in this time, your career would have turned out differently? Because it's hard to wait, man. At least you had basketball to keep you, I guess, engaged in college athletics instead of just watching. Who would you have? Peter Tom and Chip Ferguson and those guys. You got to still be a college athlete.
Times were different. They were different. I mean, we used to watch film on VH films.
Sure,
you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So and now it's high. Everything is instantaneous. It's different. And I'll say guys are better players now coming out of high school, because you're used to doing 7-on-7 and throwing the ball a bunch in high school and middle school, and so you're a little bit more prepared. But when I came out of high school, we were asking to be redshirted, like, please redshirt me, because you wanted that time to develop and grow, and we really didn't expect to play till maybe our 3rd or 4th year. At that time, when I came in, it was Danny McManus and Chip Ferguson and Peter Tom Willis and Casey Webb were together, and Charlie Ward came behind me, and Winky, and it was just a list of players. And but actually my senior year, going into my last year, I actually wanted it. I talked to Coach Richt about, maybe going to the supplemental draft, maybe transferring to a smaller school, maybe going Canadian Football League, or maybe just quitting football in general and going back to basketball. My football and basketball career wasn't that great at Florida State from a performance level. I didn't get to start all those 2 or 3 years in football, but it worked out. And but great for Bobby Bowden and Coach Richt and just the growing up here, and just the competitiveness that took place in practice was incredible, and it paid long dividends for me throughout my 17-year career.
Why didn't you transfer?
Well, at that time, I just said, I'm going to stick it out. And I don't know. Not many people had done that, especially dropping down to another level.
Right.
I had to drop down to FCS at that time. It was kind of
be eligible, right? To be eligible to play immediately, you would have had to. Yeah.
Yeah. If you went to a Division I school, you'd had to sit out a year. To drop down a level, you could have done that. But then I'm like, my dream's to play here. And I said, if I'm good enough, someone's give me a chance. Somehow I got into the combine. Somehow, I was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings in the 9th round. The guy that actually drafted me was the guy that recruited me in high school, Jack Burns, who just knew about my story, knew I was kind of a late bloomer, and knew I just kind of had a rough go in college. Just things didn't work out for me. So I was afforded that time, and things just kind of worked out. But, the transfer portal, it's real. And now what's real is, I don't know if I believe in NIL. I believe in collectives. I don't know if people are making money in NIL, to be honest with you. They're making money in collectives where people are just, here you go, it's pay for play. So things are a little bit different now, and it does change things when colleges bring in players and they hear some collective money. It changes things, because that's your starter, and then I'm not your guy anymore, coach. So it's totally different nowadays than when we grew up.
I think you're a pretty good example, Brad, of the portal being a benefit to the athlete, because, look, man, you started half of 1990, then Casey took over, and they didn't lose again until the wide right. So he was very good, but you were very good. He finished second in the Heisman. Well, I don't know, man. You were a very good quarterback that didn't get a chance to showcase your skills because you were at the same school with another quarterback who was the same age as you, or the same year as you anyway. So in that instance, I do like the portal. Like Brad Johnson, go give yourself a chance to shine at Georgia Tech. Now you're a different quarterback than Sean Jones, but you could have played quarterback at Georgia Tech. I think that's the good part of the portal, is giving guys like you that are very good players. Clearly, you won in the long run. We see what's behind you. You did all right for yourself, but it would have been cool for you to get that senior year to play.
No doubt about it. So I don't blame the portal. I don't. It's another opportunity if a kid needs it, or you don't know what coaches are coming and going a lot more than they used to. Coordinators and who they've given in, to selective jobs and things. It's a different time now. So I think you just got to know when you do leave that you got to have a bird in the hand. You don't want to go out there without just like, where am I going to go? Like, be careful of that. You better kind of know what's the opportunities of the school that you can go to, So I was, it worked out for me to stay, but you go through, Caleb Williams, he just won the Heisman and all that kind of stuff, and Joe Burrow, and the list goes on. So it's worked out for a lot of kids to transfer portal. I hate it for a lot of different reasons, but it does give you a second or third chance.
Two more quick questions I had about Florida State. Then, Aslan, I'll allow you to talk. Best player you played with on the football team, best or against, and best player you played with or against in basketball.
Yeah, in football, playing with our secondary, going against, you look over there and you see Martin Mayhew, who's a 14-year NFL guy, won a Super Bowl, and there was Dedrick Dodge, who had a 7-year career, and then there was Leroy Butler, who just made the Hall of Fame, and then, oh my gosh, there's number 2 over there. There's Deion Sanders. So Deion Sanders blows them away for me.
And T-Buck, too. I guess you played with T-Buck.
I played against T-Buck, too, yeah.
But Deion, so you were a freshman with Deion, or was that your first? Okay.
He was a year ahead of me. But
okay.
Deion, to me, Deion was the best ever, especially for me at Florida State. He took away the field. He dominated the game. Incredible NFL player, all the above. So, I will always make way for Deion, prime time. And then the best basketball player I played against, I think going against Louisville, we beat those guys. We won the Metro Conference one year, and Never Nervous Purvis and Purvis Ellison, and then playing against B.J. Armstrong and those guys at Iowa in the championship. Then up at Virginia Tech, Bimbo Coles, who was actually, I think, in the Olympics. And
he was no joke, man.
Yeah,
he was
no
joke, that guy.
Yep. So it's incredible. I got to play against a lot of great players, football and basketball, and just blessed to be able to do that.
Who was the kid at Memphis that had the goggles that would always light y'all up?
Yep, Elliot Perry.
There it is. That's right. That guy was incredible, too.
Yeah, he's up and down the court. The Metro at that time, South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Southern Miss, Tulane, Cincinnati, Louisville, Memphis. There were a lot of great players, underrated players. They're just great players just to get the national attention. But it was a tough conference.
And I assume you'd lock them down, right? When you're on defense, you don't let anybody get by you.
I had 5 fouls to give, So it was it was a fast game. And you just would realize you just can't get your shot off. You don't get to you're not out there like playing horse. You don't get the set shot, and then you got to finish to the hole and rebound the ball. It's an explosive game, but. Yeah, it's a long arms game. I had short arms, short legs. So,
Brad, as Corey mentioned, at Florida State, you get that opportunity to start during the season, and then Casey takes things over. How did you go about trying to continue to improve, even though kind of the writing was on the wall? I've gone to the archives and read some stuff, and I don't know if you're one of maybe the first guys on campus to have a performance coach and Alex Serrano, but what were the kind of things that you did, the goals that you had to try to continue your career, even though you knew things were maybe kind of slipping out of your hands in terms of trying to play for Florida State at that point?
Yeah, Casey and I, we talked about a list of quarterbacks that were there that we're competing with. And then obviously Casey and I, we were best friends. We came in the same year. They told me Casey was going to be a scrawny kid from North Florida Christian. He'll never play there. And they told him I'd be a skinny kid that just play basketball. We were both All-Americans coming out of high school and all that stuff. And so it didn't work out well. I didn't play bad at Florida State. I just never happened. It's kind of weird. I started, 6 games, I think, and they made the move. Casey played awesome, was a runner-up to the Heisman, was number 1 team in the country. And, I just felt like, man, it's just a matter of time. And so I had a trainer there named Alex Serrano. He was actually from Chile. He was a dorm manager. He got his PhD in sports psychologist, and we were close, and still to this day. We did a lot of sand plyometrics, and I don't know if you remember out there the old volleyball court was. Spent a lot of days in that hot sand at 1 o'clock, and messing balls, sand plows. Everyone said I was too slow and all those kind of things. And then we read a lot of different books, how to control your breathing. And so we knew that there was going to be a moment that was going to come in my time for my career, but it just wasn't happening at that time at Florida State for me. Could not give up. I was going to give myself every chance to go to the combine, to get in the NFL, and then just was afforded to, be ready at the right time when it happens. And so that's what happened. But, a lot of people have horror stories of their coaches and all they have excuses. Like I have even things didn't go well for me. Like had so much respect for Coach Bobby Bowden, so much respect for Coach Mark Rigg, who's now my brother-in-law. He hooked me up with his sister, Nikki. So, it's just a strange, weird story that just it was kind of I love going back to Tallahassee, being back, being a Seminole, like just very grateful for my time there, even though my career didn't go the way I wanted to go on the field. And but I've made so many lasting relationships and just a bond with so many players on those teams.
I mean, you got that flag behind you, Super Bowl 37. You obviously led the Bucs to that championship, the first in their franchise history, but that wasn't an easy path either. I mean, I kind of want to maybe zip through some of the parts of your career, but can you walk us through 1995 and going and playing in the World League for the London Monarchs? Was that something that you thought of? The coaching staff in Minnesota had to allocate you? Did your agent talk to you about it? What was that point like? And were you married? I mean, did you have to move you and the fiance, the wife to London? How did that go?
Yeah, a little all the above. I was 9th round pick coming out of Florida State, 14th quarterback chosen. I was there with Minnesota, Rich Gannon, Jim McMahon, and then Warren Moon. I felt like I was ready to play in my 3rd or 4th year. Like I was ready, but then I was backing up Warren Moon. He's a Hall of Famer. Like, how is it going to happen? And so the World League had taken place back in like 1989, 1990, and then went away. It came back there in 95, and I asked the coaches, like, let me take this. I want to take the chance. So it's the boldest move in my career to go play in the World League. 19 quarterbacks went over there. Only 3 came back. And you hear the success stories of whether it's mine, Kurt Warner's, John Kidna, couple other quarterbacks that went over there and they came back and had success. But, went over to London, got to be a starter, make plays, make mistakes for 10 games. The stadium, I think we had 9 or 10,000 people in the stadium. The end zones were only 7.5 yards deep. And it's the boldest move of my career to go over there and play and put it out there and then come back with the Minnesota Vikings. But my dad always told me, he says, it's better to be prepared and not have an opportunity than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. So I know I needed that time to go play because I didn't play that much at Florida State and hadn't played that much in Minnesota my first few years. And so I was thankful for that time to play for the London Monarchs.
So you did it just for game reps, essentially, just to get people coming at you and to feel the blitz and to read a defense and instantaneously, like that was why you were doing it?
All the above, to go be a leader, to go prove that I could be a starter. And so the hardest part about it, it worked out great for me. Being in Minnesota there for 3 or 4 years, I knew the system. Then I had to go to London and learn a whole new system and then come back because you're missing mini camps, OTAs, and then you start riding for training camp. Well, I already knew the system. A lot of quarterbacks that go over there, they didn't know their system's coming back to an NFL team, hoping to get back.
Right.
So I knew it, and I went as a backup. Eventually, Warren Moon got hurt, and then I ran off with it. But that time in London was pivotal for my career.
Yeah, so you come back and you finally get a team to lead, obviously the Vikings. In 98, there's this rookie from Marshall that ends up being pretty good. You threw 2 touchdowns in week 1, Randy Moss. You end up also throwing the ball to Keyshawn Johnson. But back to London real quick. Was LeVar Ball a teammate of yours in London? Give me LeVar Ball stories for us.
Man, there's a lot of stories in London. Tell some, save some, don't tell it all. But I mean, LeVar was on the team and he was a tight end. And our tight end, the starting tight end was Michael Tiddley. He was great. Came from Iowa, played at Buffalo for a little bit. But LeVar Ball was, man, I was like, golly, who's this big old dude? These muscles. And like, golly. He always said he's going to be famous. He said, I'm going to be famous. Huh. And every day off, he was in France or he was in Spain. Like, I don't know how he got to where he got. Like, it was and then, I just remember this big guy. He didn't play that much for us. And then, 20 years later, I'm hearing about his kids and, the big baller brand and all the above. So, but a fun guy to be around and kind of fun to hear the stories of him now, what he's done with his kids and all the above.
Do you have any big baller brand shoes?
I do not.
Oh, that's too bad. Ask for some.
I got the BBB Big Bad Brad stuff. That's about it.
Right.
For you, Brad, was it bittersweet? 98, that was what, 15-1 with the Vikings, and Gary Anderson misses the field goal, and Randall Cunningham gets a big contract after that, and it kind of seems like you're going to have to move on again. But the Commanders now, but the Washington football team, gives up a 1st-round pick, I think a 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick to get you. I mean, was it a bittersweet thing? Were you excited to go work under Norv Turner and see a team invest that much into you and know that, once again, you're going to have a shot to keep a team as the leader?
98 was a crazy time for me a little bit because at the end of 97, I had a major neck surgery. I lost all the hand strength in my arm. Lost
So
everything.
you woke up. So can you? I mean, I don't want to gloss over all this stuff. You just woke up one morning and things just didn't feel right.
Yeah, in '97, at the end of the season, we were playing Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football. Woke up with a crick in my neck. I couldn't move. I couldn't even drive to the game. My mom drove me to the game. Playing during the middle of the game, second quarter, the ball was falling out of my hand. It was ugly. They pulled me, got me out of the game. Next morning, I wake up, did a hand test. I had 6% hand strength compared to my left hand. It was unbelievable. Couldn't pick up my hat. It was done. And 36 hours later, had neck surgery. Had to come back, recover from it. Going into that '98 season, started the first 2 games of the year. Got hot, threw 7 touchdowns, I think, in the first 2 games. Broke my ankle. Missed the next 6 weeks. Came back. Game 9, broke my thumb, and then I was out for the season. So that team went 15-1, but it's kind of a blessing in disguise that year because I don't think I could have played with the injury that I had from my neck in '98. And then that's when the move was made. Got traded to Washington. Loved playing in Washington for Norv Turner. Impacted my career big time. I was able to make the Pro Bowl. We won the division there in Washington my first year, and so it was just a change that took place. It was no animosity. It kind of worked out for Minnesota and myself at the same time.
You go to Tampa, and Tony Dungy's the coach, and then you feel comfortable in Tampa. You made the choice to go there, and then John Gruden shows up. Was that like, oh gosh, here we go, a new coach? I'm gonna have to prove myself again. What were the emotions when Tampa made the coaching change going into 2002?
Yeah, and we'd won that. We made the playoffs with Tony Dungy as the head coach. We get beat in the playoffs by Philadelphia. Next day, the day before the playoff game, Tony told the team, he said, "Listen, I'm good." The owner said, "I'm going to be back next year. Let's just go play." We lose the game. He got fired. Like, what just took place? And so it took the owners, Glazers, about 6 weeks to decide who the head coach was going to be. So they brought in John Gruden. When they did, immediately I called Rich Gannon, who was, the starter at Minnesota with me. And then he played for Gruden at Oakland at that time. And Rich is like, "Dude, I'm ticked because you're taking my head coach, my play caller." And he said, "I'm excited for you, Brad, because he's going to program you in ways that you've never been programmed before as a quarterback, teach you the offenses and defenses on both sides of the ball, and just have you audible ready and all those kind of things." And he said, "You're going to love playing for him." And so Gruden came in. I had my first meeting with him. Walked into his office, and it was a dark, like little small cave. It was always dark because he was watching film, and he turned on like a little light, and he said, "Brad," he says, "we're going to win a Super Bowl this year, and we're going to declare war on our defense, the number 1 defense in the world, Warren Sapp and John Lynch and Rondé Barber. And how's our defense going to blast off the joker right X short 22X drive halfback burst? And how's our defense going to stop triple right F right 358 Nebraska X seam?" So what he did, he brought in competitive juices on the offense and defensive sides of the ball. Brought in about 15 free agents that year from Joe Jurevicius and Ken Dilger and Ricky Dudley and Robodoba and Michael Pittman. The list goes on. And so it was really, I love playing for Gruden. It was just a weird exit. You leave Tony Dungy, who had been a Hall of Fame coach and won a Super Bowl with the Colts, and then I got a great coach in John Gruden. So I was fortunate to play for both of them.
We're in Super Bowl week, obviously, and a lot. I was just thinking while you were talking, like Brock Purdy is getting a lot of attention because he was Mr. Irrelevant. He was the last pick. Well, he was the last pick of the 7th round. You, my man, were picked 2 rounds later than Brock Purdy. So you getting to a Super Bowl is really a testament to self-belief and having and self-confidence and hard work and stick-to-itiveness and all that. But I wanted to ask, what is it like? You had, by the time you had played in the Super Bowl, I think you had probably played in 110 NFL games. What is that 10 minutes like before the Super Bowl, or when you're hearing the national anthem? I don't know who's saying your national anthem, but what are the nerves like? Are they different? Are they crazy? And how do you control them?
Yeah, it's golly, it's you make the hair tingle on my back right now. So it's different. It's different. And so for the guys that plan it, that lose, they'll tell you the game's, it's just a big party and it's overrated. The guys that won it, they'll tell you it's the best day of their lives.
Yeah.
And Celine Dion saying "God Bless America," and the Dixie Chicks saying the national anthem, and
wow,
Don Shula and Bob Greasy and Larry Zonker out there doing the coin flip, and you're sitting there your whole life. You've eaten popcorn and had drinks, sitting there watching the game, and then next thing you know, you're in that game and the world's watching you. And at that time, there was only 1 week in between the Super Bowl compared to two, and it's mayhem. When the game starts, it kind of turns into like another game, but as it takes place, and then at the end of the game, it's a little bit different because there's confetti that falls, and it's an incredible moment to be a part of during that game. And actually, at the end, I brought a picture. I don't know if you can see it, but this is the picture after the game when I got to take a picture with John Gruden and my wife, Nikki's 7 months pregnant, and I'm holding my son. She's pregnant with Jake, and then my other son, Max, he's 2 years old, and we're saying we're going to Disney.
Oh, nice.
So it's pretty cool to be a part of that game. But, Rich Gannon, Jerry Rice, Tim Brown, Bill Romanowski, Charles Woodson, Rod Woodson, like Hall of Famers on both sides of that field. And so it's pretty cool to say you got to play in that game and then to have won it.
And Derek Brooks obviously was one of the biggest stars on that field.
Yeah.
And honestly, maybe the best player on the field. But I mean, he was just incredible. He was probably one of the best he is one of the best outside linebackers that ever lived. Well, you were there when he was a freshman. Yeah. When he came in all ballyhooed, USA Today Defensive Player of the Year coming into Florida State along with Marquette Smith. What did you think of Derek Brooks when you first saw him?
Derek at that time I think he came in as like a strong safety.
Yeah, he was a safety.
And you can bring in the list of all the guys that came in, and so you signed 20 All-Americans or whatever, everybody's all-state, All-American, right. Like whatever. Like you really don't think anything about it at that time. All right, here's a new group of young freshmen coming in. And eventually Derek earned his way, and he was an All-American at Florida State like he was in high school, then became eventually Hall of Famer in the pros. But just I remember he was one with great leadership, great work ethic, and just the same guy he was then as he was now. But he had to find his way as a freshman through sophomore and junior year, then become the man that he became. But that the stories that can be told at Burt Reynolds Hall, from I mean, it's pretty incredible to listen. Just we got this camaraderie back at Florida State back in the day when you lived in an athletic dorm. They had dorm checks, but I remember on Friday nights, guys would be playing checkers or chess, and then all of a sudden, later it'd be a race out there in the parking lot. Who's the fastest? As you see in Randy Moss and Terrell Buckley, and sprinting out there between cars. It was a pretty cool time at that time at Florida State.
Brad, I know you're not the czar of college football. I don't know if you have any solutions, but what is your take on the sport? Being a spectator, obviously having two sons that are still playing the sport. I mean, we talked about NIL and collectives, and I guess a lot of us are just kind of told that we need to embrace change and kind of deal with what's happening to the sport. I mean, in your mind, is this the best path forward right now? What this sport is, the track that it's on, or are you hoping that there's going to be some kind of sensible change done to kind of preserve some of the integrity or some of the tradition of the sport of what we grew up watching and how you played the game?
It's different. And good luck to all those parents and high school kids that are going through college. You can have great experiences and you want to get your education, the memories that you can take place, and hope to be a part of a team that can play for a championship and compete and have a coach that you can look back one day like Bobby Bowden and say, that's a man of integrity. That was my coach. That was my team. And things are different now. Everything's instantaneous from social media. How the portal's interesting. You can say great things about it. You can say negative things about it. The NIL thing, I don't believe in NIL. Like I said, I believe in the collective. And so I don't know. I wish there was a set guideline that they could take place on this thing. But now you're getting kids in high school. You start transferring in middle school if you're a quarterback to get yourself set up for high school. And so it's real. You have an agent coming out of high school sometimes, a handler. I wish there would be some guidelines on this thing. And, they never – I think they put the cart before the horse on this one. So good luck to all those making the decisions. And it's a tough things for kids to go through. But at the end of the day, you want those kids to have a great experience, great relationship with their coaches, get your education, get your degree, then hopefully, you can get your dreams come true as far as what you perform on the field, and hopefully get a shot at the pros.
What kind of sports dad were you? Are you?
Growing up, I was fortunate with my dad actually got to coach me in all my leagues, baseball, football,
Oh, okay.
basketball, and those kind of things. And I was blessed to do the same thing with both my boys, Max and Jake. Coached them in all the sports, all the way through, youth football, all the way through middle school and high school. And so it's pretty cool to do that. Now I'm just a dad sitting in the stands eating popcorn.
Are you nervous?
And I don't know if I'm nervous. I can't yell down there and say, "Hey, here's the blitz and here's what's coming." You know what I mean? There's A&M. There's 180,000 people there.
Yeah.
Now both kids are at North Carolina, but no, you're excited for your kids because they worked hard, they're prepared, and you just want it to be be coached in the right way and those kind of things, and just let them blaze their own path. So I can't really say I'm nervous. I'm kind of excited for them, and I know they've done the work and trust in that.
When they show these parents in the stands, and I have a son that's a 15-year-old baseball player, not nearly at the level of your kids, but I get nervous when he's at bat. Just for him, I want him to succeed. And you'll see some of these shots of parents in the stands, and they look like they're about to throw up. They're so nervous. But they've shown you in the stands a few times before too. You look excited when they do well, but you don't ever look like, oh my God, he's about to vomit on that person in front of him.
Well, I like to just sit right beside my wife. Okay, we sit right by, shoulder to shoulder, and I wear these big headphones with my little radio on there, and because I like to listen to the commentators and kind of what's going on in the game. And
old school, that's old school right there.
I wear the big headphones. You know what I mean? I don't know how to download anything. I got this little AM FM radio that I listen to. So, but that's the way I listen to the game. We're nudging each other the whole time and those kind of things, but. Sometimes you got to cover up your mouth because you might say something. I got caught one time, but it does happen. But you just want good for all the kids on the team.
Yeah.
The work level they put into it's a lot. And there is a lot at stake every time those kids go out there on that field. But at the end of the day, you want them to live out their dream, blaze their own path, and do their own thing. And so for us, it's really strange. As one's a quarterback, one's a receiver. A tight end, and so you're just. You almost become, how was your day? Good day, bad day. You become a psychologist at times. You know what I mean? How do you deal with this? This one just had a great day. This one had a tough day. This one, the coach yelled at, and this one is praised. And then, and then deal with all the social media part of it. That's a whole different deal too. Right. So, but you just want to be there to support your kids, and that's what we try to do.
We've kept you way too long. I got one last question for me, Brad. Just back to that Super Bowl game. Obviously Michigan came under fire into their path to a national championship because of their sort of system of figuring out signs and things of that nature. You guys did it the right way, the legal way, the ethical way. Your head coach, John Gruden, obviously came from Oakland. Bill Callahan took over. That was his offensive line coach. Were you ever more prepared, ever more confident going into a game, oddly enough, than the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it's a great thing you bring up. So a lot of people said we knew their plays. Because of Gruden, what's interesting for them, they had Gruden for 4 years.
Yeah, they
knew our plays better than we knew them because we were in the first year of learning them. So, but with John Gruden, he was unbelievable. When you came into meetings every day, like it was his hair was on fire. You were always prepared for what's next. The moment was never too big because the pressure he applied in pressure and practice. And so I love playing for Gruden. And he had us, he spurred on the defense as much as he did the offense for us. And we had great coaches on there. So I love playing for Gruden. He got you prepared like no other. And so the Super Bowl was kind of, for us, is kind of anticlimactic because us beating Philadelphia in the vet, the last game of the season, our nemesis, that was probably as big as anything to us, beating Philadelphia on the road in the vet and then playing the Super Bowl after that.
Cold weather game.
That was where you won it, right?
Yeah, we played Philadelphia 5 games at 19-game stretch.
Yeah.
And 2 of those were in the playoffs and how the games went. And, man, great team, great coaches and all that kind of stuff. But beating them, they were our nemesis, and beating them was like that propelled us to do what we did in the Super Bowl.
Brad, I have a quick trivia question before we go. Do you know your longest career rush in the NFL, how long it was?
I do. I believe it's 28 yards.
There you go. What happened?
It was actually it was 3rd and 4, and they had 2 wide 3 techniques. The guards were kind of like wide. I'm like, holy smokes. So I actually checked to a QB sneak on 3rd and 4. And it kind of surprised everybody. And I ended up running for 28 yards, and I'm running, and I'm like, please, somebody tackle me, because I did not feel good in space.
Right.
So, so that was my longest run.
And are you still were you the last player to throw a touchdown to yourself? Are you still the only player that's done that? You did do that, right?
I did do it 1997. I believe it was 97.
Yeah.
Touchdown pass, touchdown catch myself. And then later, Marcus Mariota did it with the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, man, come
so
on.
we kind of did. So, but it was pretty cool to say you're the first.
Yeah,
and,
right.
When it happened, we did not have a clue what it was. We didn't know. And then the next day we found out it was 12 points in fantasy football.
I was going to say that's a big fantasy. That's a big fantasy play where you throw it in, catch it. So the guy deflected it. You used your athleticism to catch it and go house it in the end zone.
That was the remake of The Longest Yard. So
yeah, sure.
And it actually ended up winning an ESPY for Play of the Year that year. So it's pretty cool.
And the Noles play North Carolina this year, correct?
Yeah. Actually, played down in Tallahassee. So
no, I'm not going to be dumb. I know you root for your sons. Family trumps everything. I'm not going to ask you that. Yeah. But will you go to some of your old haunts when you're down here? I don't know how often you get back to go to Tallahassee, but I assume you're looking forward to that trip just to go down memory lane a little bit.
Yeah, I actually came back. I've been back a few times. Been back for a couple of basketball reunions. Was just down there about 2 weeks ago.
That's right.
And man, I got so many great friends and stuff all down there. So yeah, we'll definitely be down there. I'll be dressed in blue this time. The one time. But man, I'm listen. Went to school there at Florida State for 5 years. Lived in Tallahassee for 15 years after that.
Right.
And then our kids were born in Tallahassee. So I mean, I just can't tell you the impact of just that decision for me to come to Florida State as a high school kid out of Black Mountain, North Carolina, was the best decision I made in my life, because I wasn't just choosing a school. I chose a place where to play for Coach Bowden and Coach Rick was like men of integrity, and just thankful for everything that Tallahassee and those people and the people of Tallahassee and people of Florida State have given me over the years.
Brad Johnson, y'all. 2 sports down at Florida State, Super Bowl champion. Thanks so much for taking time out. This got to be one of the best weeks of the year for you, I imagine, right? Everyone,
it's pretty cool.
It
just makes you pinch yourself like, golly, that was us. We got to go through that. And you're excited for those quarterbacks, because it's when somebody's going to win it, they're not going to sleep for 3 days going through the parade and going through what it kind of brings to their career. And it's just so hard to get there. There's only 34 quarterbacks that have won it. There's only 30 that are living. And so it'll be interesting to see one of those 2 guys, what's going to happen for them.
That's a great fraternity to be in, man. That's like people that walked on the moon. Like, that's a very rare population to be a part of. There's only 30 of you guys still around. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, think about there's more Kentucky Derby winners. There's more guys that have won the Masters, more presidents, more guys. I mean, it's a small club to be a part of. So it's pretty awesome.
Find him on social, everybody. Big Bad Brad 14 on TikTok. we're gonna wait for that 5 trick shot Danzia.
It's crazy. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen this week. It is nuts. So the social media, the Instagram and Twitter, that's Brad_Johnson _14, and the Big Bad Brad 14's on TikTok. But it's wild. So have fun with it.
Thank you, Brad.
So much. I appreciate it, guys. Thank y'all.
Thank you, buddy.